Hello everyone, and today we have decided that we're going to be a bit of a farmer. As you can see, we've got this little sword that we're going around and we're just collecting some crops. Those crops get converted into tokens that we can use in our skill tree to improve ourselves. We have got a couple already that we are going to use to improve our physical damage, which, as you can see from our sword swings, is destroying the crops quite a lot faster. We do definitely need to make sure that we're getting our stamina up, because we're only ever coming away with one token at a time, because the conversion rate isn't particularly fantastic currently. We do need to take a look to see if there is something that we can do to improve that for us, which there doesn't seem to be just yet, so we will just dump our points into improving our stamina, which just improves that really big bar across the bottom, which did let us get away with 3 points to just lets us max out our stamina. Everything else is a little bit more expensive, so we are going to have to put in a bit of work to try and get them, but if we can get lucky, so they do sometimes spawn in quite big groups, and that's kind of what we want, because then we can cleave our way to a good outcome, but that is a bit few and far between. I am thinking that we might want to get our attack speed up, because you can see when the circle fills in around our sword, that's when we attack, and it is a little bit slow. We do not have enough to increase our attack speed. It does only increase it by 0.05, which does look like it's more, but it's not that big an upgrade for the amount that it cost. So I'm a little bit concerned off the go that our starting point for upgrades is not the best. I think it's definitely worth improving our carrot spawn chance. While it is only up to 29%, if we can just get more spawns, there's going to be more on the screen for our sword to hit. We won't get those runs where there was just nothing grouped together, and that is now up to 31%. The 31% spawn chance does definitely make it look like there is a lot more going on in the carrot patch that we've got, but I still feel like we're going to need to put quite a bit more money into just upgrading the carrots so that we're able to get more spawns, because they're still a bit spread out for me. Or if we can upgrade the radius of our sword swing, that would also be very good for us. I was looking through our upgrades and I saw that there's an option for a sunburn, which just deals 10 damage to anything inside of it, and that just sounds like it could be quite cool for us. And we can put the rest into increasing our attack speed just a little bit more, and as you can see here, there is a big area where if anything does spawn inside of it, as just did there, they just take damage and just less space for them to be, and it's just 3 points for us. I'm definitely a fan of those sunburn spurts. So we are going to improve our attack speed again, just so we can keep ramping up how fast we're swinging, because it is still just that little bit slow. And if we can get that up to, well, I kind of want it to be instant if I got my own way, just so that, you know, we could just fly through this carrot patch getting all the tokens we want. But that sunspot has been a big help for us. While it doesn't do everything every single run, they do just sometimes just spawn in there, and that's just free tokens, and all those free tokens we can put into, I'm kind of feeling a bit more range damage. We do have that bow that's just floating around attacking stuff. If we can get that to one-shot some of these carrots again, that would again just be more free tokens. And that is now the range damage maxed out, and we'll add some magic damage, even though we don't really have anything that does magic damage. Oh, could it be the sunburn that it's, no, because it was doing 3 already anyway. But our bow is not able to one-shot them at the moment, but hopefully the more upgrades we can get, the closer it gets to being able to do that. So I've been sat here trying to work out what's the next best thing, because we've got the more carrots, but it wasn't enough. So I kind of worked out bigger carrots, so we can upgrade our carrot yield to get us an extra 10% carrots. I'm hoping that does translate to a decent increase in our token gain, which it didn't, but we can just upgrade our carrot yield again. So while I've been tending to the field, I sent our greatest scientist with the only 2 brain cells we have left, and he has come back and shown us how we can add an extra 10 crops to our field, and 10 crops is a lot more, and I'm surprised it took us this long to work out how to do it. But as you can see, that does give us some massive groups on the field, which does help ramp up the amount of tokens that we can get. So I'm just trying to work out, should we just force as many crops as we can onto our field, or should we make it so that they're a little bit easier to deal with? I'll have to go and find that scientist and see if I can get my 2 brain cells back so that I can make a decision. So we have decided that we are going to max out our attack speed in hopes that we can get that down to less than like 1 second per swing, just because their groups are getting so big that I want to hit all of them, and I can't do that when I'm stuck swinging at the previous group. But that has made me realise that some of these groups are getting big enough that I might need to increase our attack size as well, just because they're getting such big patches that I can't hit all of them with my sword. So I've done a couple of runs and I have decided that the area that we swing is a little bit inadequate for the job at hand, so I have just invested in maxing out one of the radius increases, and it's another one that is like I can't actually tell whether it's done anything. I, in my infinite wisdom, have just worked out there's a totally other section of this game that I've been completely ignoring. So at the top of our skill tree there's a box called equipment, which the tutorial did show us when we equipped the sword and the bow, and we could have been improving our weapons as we went along. So we are going to swap from a stick to a bronze sword. You have to right click to buy it, not left like I was trying to do, which does just do more damage, has a higher attack speed and a bit more of an area, and it looks more like, you know, an actual sword. Surprising, that one, when you swap from a stick to a sword, that your sword looks like a sword. But as we can see, it is now swinging for 9s rather than the 8s it was doing earlier, which is letting us gain quite a lot more tokens when they group up quite nicely, which does feel like that was the little thing that I was missing and getting a bit confused about, was just not reading. At some point I will learn that reading is very useful in these games. Something I have noticed while doing this as well is that the AoE indicator isn't the circle, it's actually the tip of the sword, which is very weird to try and gauge, because like, in my head it's just the circle. The circle's what you aim for, but it's not. As you can see that the AoE range is slightly past it, so you just need to know how big your sword is so you can know what you can swing at it. So we have spent a little bit of time in the interim just learning how to plant more seeds so we can get more tokens out of this. As you can see, we've proper ramped up our carrot production. Look how full our carrot patch is now. Compare it to where we were at the start, we've definitely put those 2 brain cells to good use to learn how to plant some seeds. But the next thing we do need to work on is learning how to make a sharper tool to collect our carrots. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure there are better ways than running around with a giant copper sword, but I'm guessing our 2 brain cells haven't quite caught up to that yet. So I've been thinking, how weird monsters must these carrots be for our only thought on how to collect a large amount of them being a guy with a bow and arrow and a guy with a big sword? Would it not have been better to just have people running around picking them? But on that, I have just bought a new bow and arrow and a new big sword for our 2 guys, and as you can see, our sword does now just 2-shot these quite consistently, as they're doing about 10 to 12 damage, which is definitely a lot better than where we were at, where it was 3-shotting. But it does very much make me feel like we could get this down to a 1-shot, and now I really want that, and I don't know how much more damage we're gonna have to do that. We are quite consistently getting them down to like a 1/3 health, so it probably is about 18-19 damage that we need to be able to 1-shot, and I don't know whether we're gonna have to just like save up for a new sword, which would be a lot, and it costs resources we don't have because it needs corn chance, which we can unlock now. It's probably a good thing to have starting to appear, just so we can slowly work on collecting them. I don't know, I probably shouldn't be like prioritizing them at the moment, just have it as a passive collection when they're in part of a big group, because there's still a lot of carrot based upgrades that we need. Fortunately, the corn doesn't take any more hits than anything else, so we are just still able to 2-shot everything, so it doesn't slow us down that much, it being here, which is a nice addition. We can just keep swinging like absolute psychos, collecting as much as we can and moving on. I've gained a few resources in the meantime, so I felt like getting a bit of crit chance is probably going to be useful, so I have upped it to 5%, which isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things, but with the amount of targets we're hitting, we should start seeing those turn up every now and then. I was hoping that if I kept talking, that one would turn up and we'd be able to see what we're looking out for, but currently haven't managed to see one. And whether that's just me being blind, someone will have to let me know, but I'm pretty sure we just haven't had any crits happen. We have gone from a 5% crit chance up to a 13%, and we've added an extra 8% to our corn yield in hopes that that might make a little bit of a difference in the numbers that we're seeing, because we have only been gaining 1 corn per run, just because it is still 5 that we need to spawn for us to get a singular token, and sometimes we're just not that lucky. Shocking, I know, my luck has always been absolutely tremendous in games, but hopefully just adding that little bit of an extra yield might help us out in not needing to get all 5 straight away, and we just get a little bit lucky here and there. While it hasn't been the most useful upgrade, I am thinking I'll just get an extra sun ray to be on the field, just because then we've got more chance of it actually doing something, because it can kill anything that spawns in it, but being lucky enough to have something spawn in it's quite slim. But if we can have more of them on the field, that stacks its chances in our favor, and just means that we don't have to cover quite as much of the field at one time. And that is now 4 sun rays on the field at any one time. I am going to use our corn that we've collected just to max out our corn yield at 20% in hopes that that does something. But look at how much of the field is now covered by those sun rays. While they are a bit closer together than one would normally like, it is just huge areas I don't have to worry about anymore, and I can just put my attention to other areas of the field in hopes I can force the spawns down into those so that they'll just passively die. So we've got the option for some more projectiles, and I'm assuming that that just means that our bow's going to shoot more, which doesn't seem to be the case. So I'm not quite sure what that bonus projectiles was actually about, but I'm sure that's something that we'll work out as we go. It could be based around the other weapon that we haven't unlocked yet. So the projectile amount might be to do with the spellbooks, as it does have a projectile amount built into it. So we can now get that, which, wow, that's busy. Just shoots from the sky and just attacks everything. That's going to take a little bit of getting used to, because it just hits anything and everything at once with no logic behind it. But it is ramping up the amount of money that we're making, so I can't complain too much about it. I know we've just got the spell book, but I saw that the next one, while nearly tripling the damage, also comes with something flame 1. It does have less projectiles, but it does just drop meteors on everything and one-shot them, so I feel like that might be a little bit more useful for us at the moment. So I did decide not to upgrade our bow so that we could get that this time, and I'm not sure if I just saw that right or not, so we'll just take a look at that in a second when we finish this run and see whether I think I did the right thing or not. Yeah, I did. We're getting nearly 100 tokens per run, so even though I've just spent 200, we can now afford to buy the new bow, and we can afford to spawn more carrots. Sure, this new bow definitely doesn't have the same oomph behind it as the meteor does, but that upgrade's absolutely ridiculous. Honestly, should have done that first. Anyone decides to play this game, get that upgrade as early as you can, because it's so insanely strong. I thought I'd improve the sword as well in this, so it only does a little bit more damage, but it's now got poison on it, which I'm going to assume will just add damage on, because we are now just one-shotting everything as we go. So if we can find a little bit more attack speed somewhere as well, this is going to be an absolutely disgusting set of upgrades that we've done. I've just seen that we can increase our attack speed per carrot harvested, and we're harvesting a lot of carrots, so we can do that. We can add in some pierce for our bow and max out our crit chance up to 19%. I'm going to keep hold of our corn because we have a chance to spawn a tractor over there, which I just feel like is going to be absolutely ridiculous. Looking at how everything else has gone, this is going to be insane, because look how fast we are swinging now. We can nearly just swoosh across the screen because we gained like 100 extra attack speed because we cleared over 1,000 1,000 carrots. I absolutely love this. This is ridiculous. But we can get the tractor, and we can make it that our sword gains are increased by 10%, and we will increase the spawn chance of corn up to 14%. And look at that tractor go. He's not particularly great at the moment because he doesn't one-shot everything, but it probably won't take us very long to get him to be one-shotting, as he is like doing 2/3 of their health. I've only just noticed how much corn we're suddenly getting, and carrots. So we do now have 675 carrots and 330 corn, which I'm going to use to give us a new bow, just because we can, and up our tractor to a 2% spawn chance. We do have a few other upgrades dotted about that we are going to want to work on, but I feel like just prioritizing getting our weapons as strong as possible is a good shout for us. So I was wondering earlier on in this game about why we weren't seeing very many stamina upgrades and why our stamina had been kind of locked at 150 after the first couple of upgrades at the start. Seeing this now, it's completely understandable. I understand why you locked it, because this would be ridiculous. This attack speed upgrade for per thing you kill would go utterly insane, and I absolutely love it. So I'm going to max out our corn upgrade, make it so that our corn deals damage to everything around it, max out our total crops up to 150. Every fist projectile from our ranged weapon has infinite pierce. Make it so that any crops hit by our spellbook for the first time take extra damage. Make it so that our sun does more damage, and max out the spawn chance of our tractor up to 3.5%. We do have a few more upgrades that we need to work towards, a few extra weapons and a ton of tractor damage. But they won't take very long to get to. I do apologise to YouTube for this bit rate, because you are going to be able to see nothing. And I ain't gonna lie, I can't take in any of this information. There is just so many effects on screen. What is happening? We're definitely getting more tractors though. In the few pixels that I can see, there are definitely more tractors on the screen. And we might as well, as we're here, max out our tractor damage. We do have some bonus damages, crit, attack speed that we can stack, but I kind of think that we need to get the maxed out weapons first, which are only 18,000 carrots and about 7,500 corn, before we look at going back for some of them. As you can see, the tractors do now one shot as they go across up there. I say as you can see as if you can tell anything that's going on, but they definitely can do that. And our emerald poison sword thing is still going nice and strong. I do wonder what the next one will add, because I actually think the game is starting to lag with how much effects going on, because my mouse doesn't feel as responsive towards the end, or it's my brain chugging and not being able to keep up with everything. But it's utterly insane either way. I quite like how I'm only here to set the chain of events off, and then once it starts going, I'm basically just here to supervise the situation, because I do so much less than all the magical effects and explosions happening, and it's just something to behold. What it reminds me of is years ago, there used to be those flash games about building with like sand and whatnot. There was like this paint spray can kind of effect behind it, and all of the effects going off just remind me of those games, and it's a very cool thing to be reminded of. But that is now enough that we can get our cinder blade. So we are going from a poison sword to a fire sword with quite substantially increased attack speed already. There is definitely something happening. Couldn't tell you what, but there's definitely something happening. But I think you will get the point. This has been Agrivore. It is just the demo, but the game is available to test on Steam in the link in the description. I hope you had fun, and I will see you in the next one.